Zoom meeting, and we're talking workforce development, which is so important and crucial to us right now with the 20% unemployment rate. So if Miss Teresa chimes in, then we'll just pull her into the program. So if you all just give me one moment, I'm going to launch us live, okay?
All right, then, because I was saying the same thing. I thought you might as well get up in the morning, put your clothes on as you do, because if you're on Zoom all day.
Yes, exactly. And you got to look just as good, you know. Okay, we're live. Thank everyone for tuning in that's listening with us right now and plan to be in. I see my co-host is teamed in with us. Let's see if we can connect her with us also. Hello, Miss Teresa. How are you doing? She's connecting with us by audio. So we'll give her a couple of seconds to get in with us. And just a moment. Okay, great. I think we all live. Welcome, Teresa.
Hi, I'm so sorry for being late, y'all. I had to fix my hair natural today, so it was like crazy.
I know the challenges of Zoom meetings, okay?
Yes.
But thank you so much. We're glad to be part of the conversation. I want to of course, remind our audience you've tuned in to the Women for Progress radio show here every Thursday at 5:30 to 7 p.m. But tonight we're tuning in a little early. I have a follow-up Zoom meeting right following our program, so we needed to start a little early. And don't worry if we're recording this program to Facebook Live and all of our Spreaker and radio networks, so you can go back and listen to our entire program and share it. And if you don't have time to listen right now, go back to our Facebook page and you'll be able to pick it up again. This is Women for Progress Radio. This is Willie Jones, and my co-host is Miss Teresa Jones. And I'm so excited today to have our guest. Definitely just such a long time talking to our own Dr. Marion Talley, who's one of our chaplains for Women for Progress, and she's also associate pastor at Fair Street Baptist Church. And Miss Bettina Fine, is that correct, Miss Bettina?
Bettina Odom.
Okay, Miss Bettina Odom, who is with us today. And so we have a great conversation lined up for today. And welcome, Dr. Talley, to Women for Progress Radio.
Thank you. Really happy to be here.
Well, you're looking fabulous. I don't know what you're doing, but probably getting a lot of rest and that kind of stuff. So.
Oh no. We have more Zoom meetings than I did regular meetings.
I know. I was just saying the same thing. It's just, I guess because it's so very, very convenient for us now. But I'm almost zoomed out, okay? So I want to begin our conversation today with just a little bit of update because, Teresa, you this week were tuned in to and got zoomed into a conversation today around COVID-19 and its impact to the African American community or communities of color. And there was a lot of great dialogue around that, and also information around how our millennials and young people are handling COVID-19. So can you give us just a little summary of some of the things you all talked about and maybe some takeaways to that from that conversation?
Well, I was honored to be on a Zoom meeting with the great James Carville and a few other phenomenal panelists on the National Black Youth Response to COVID-19. It was organized by some young people out in Louisiana, so it was a very good call. Some of the things we discussed were its impact on Black youth, its impact on people in general, the impact in the South and rural communities, and how young Black people can get involved in order to kind of change the political landscape this election cycle. It was a very good call, in my opinion. I think a lot of people were interested in the opinions of folks who have been in the arena for a very long time, like some of these other panelists. And, you know, I tried to give my own opinions about how Black youth are being impacted by this and some of the challenges we're facing when it comes to voting and when it comes to actually creating change, meaningful change in light of this pandemic and its impact on our communities. We discussed, in particular, voting and election day. So some young people wanted to know how to get involved, what can they do, and I recommended that they reach out to existing entities who are already doing the work to help them, because a lot of times people like entities like Women for Progress or like some of the Women's Voters League or Mississippi Votes or other entities that are already doing the work. They just haven't been able to make maybe meaningful change quickly because of inadequate resources and not many people actually being involved to help move the needle. And before people start erupting all these new organizations and associations, I am of the mind, figure out what's already out there and help them get it done. Additionally, to close, we talked about kind of the untapped political power of young Black people now. First of all, it's a generational thing. Young people don't vote every generation. So it's not a new thing to say, 30 and under are not really voting, the turnout is super low. But I am of the mind that in this age of, information, of having just kind of immense contacts with and networks with everyone across the country, tweeting someone in another country, tweeting someone in the White House. I think that this generation can be different. We can actually expand the electorate to these young people and actually get them voting and voting in numbers enough to change the landscape of our state and the country. So it was a very good dialogue, I think, and actually got my wheels turning on some things we're doing here in Mississippi. So I was very excited to be on along with some of those awesome, amazing panelists and to hear from James Carville himself.
Did James Carville or some of the other panelists, did they talk about, because they're in areas other than Mississippi, what some of the other states are doing or might be doing to expand the voter access during this pandemic era? So there was a comment by one of the panelists who said that one of the states are considering mail ballots, all mail ballots on election day. And James Carville said in response, it doesn't matter what they do, we need to do it. Yeah. It doesn't matter what way they vote. Yeah. If they ask you to stick it in there, stick it in there. And I thought that was hilarious because he's right. Whichever way they make it for us to vote, we need to just do it. Yeah. And, it would be, in my opinion, a truly disservice to people who want to vote to force them to stand in long lines, along with other people who may be sick or who may have these pre-existing conditions or who may be elderly or in that demographic of people who are impacted greatly by COVID. But I don't think we need to let anything stand in our way for voting to change. Because even if we just did the one thing where we took on absentee voting, we took all the restrictions off and allowed anyone who would like to vote absentee, then that alone would help the situation, because all of those folks who at home, they could vote absentee, and then eliminate some other things that and maybe we need to do it temporarily for the next year or 2 years, and until we get through this pandemic.
Yeah, I think erasing these barriers to voting is important and key, right? Mm-hmm. I think if we just said, hey, for the next 2 years, any and everyone can vote absentee ballot, request a ballot, get sent to your home, turn around and vote anytime.
Register online
leading up to election day. I think that's important. But I think what's more important is just getting the message out. Miss mm-hmm. Willie, you talk a lot about connecting the dots mm-hmm. and making sure, people understand how this has impacted them, why this is impacting them, and how having the right people in charge can change it drastically. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the message, and that's what I said on this call. That is the message we need to be reiterating. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to be telling people about, because, and I use this exact analogy, a young person who is working 2 jobs, who is a single parent, or someone living paycheck to paycheck, they're not thinking about election day. Right. They're not thinking about voting. It's hard for somebody like that to say, oh, if I vote, all of this is going to change tomorrow. Mm-hmm. No, people aren't thinking that. We have to do a better job of communicating the message of how it will change mm-hmm. eventually when you have the right people in power. And that's what I think is missing and absent in each generation. Talking to young people, because they're not paying taxes normally. Normally, they don't have a tax to pay. Normally, they don't have, property taxes. Normally, they don't have these other things that impact middle-aged and older people. And most of them don't have health care or think about health care mm-hmm. because they're young and generally healthy. So they're not thinking about these things. Mm-hmm. These are not things that concern them. The things that concern them are student loan debt mm-hmm. or, access to Wi-Fi and internet.
And right now, with the unemployment rate being 20%, they're thinking about, where am I going to get a job? I just graduated my 4-year degree. I got a loan debt on my back. I got to get to work, and I got to get to work quick. How can I do that?
And I agree. And I think because of the state that we are in, mm-hmm. this economy, I think I read today we're at, 30 million job losses mm-hmm. in the past month or two. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the state that we are in, we have to capitalize on it. And mm-hmm. it is the best time to drill this message to young people, because it's not just a generational issue now. Everybody is impacted by the singular issue of COVID-19 destroying our country's economy and our ability to interact with each other. So I think right now is the best time to expand the electorate to this untapped political group, young Black voters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you so much. And we need to continue the conversation around that and bring young people and millennials into these conversations. A lot of times we talk about adult working families and families with children, etc. But we always and kind of our millennials or our young people are kind of like the number 2, 3 down the road that we bring into the picture. But they are our future, and it's so very, very important. And when we think about what's going on with COVID-19, has uncovered some very ugly things. We've turned over some rocks and shined the lights on some things that have just been tragic for us. And one of the things is our young people not prepared for the future of tomorrow. And not only from an IT standpoint, just overall being able to deal with the country we have right now, which has no borders. And so we are ill-equipped. And as we always say in our African American or communities of color, we know that if we're experiencing on a nationwide level, our communities of color are being hit 3 times as harder. So we have got to begin to think about that, and we have to bring millennials in. I mean, when we think about the age of millennials and young people that are graduating college right now, or even getting ready to go into college right now, those are the folks in a very short period of time are going to be leading where we are. they're going to be sitting at the tables where we're sitting at right now. So we need to make sure that they are prepared. They're innovative leaders, and they understand not only the needs of themselves, but for us baby boomers and all of us who's going to need their help in their leadership. So it's very, very important for us. So I look forward to continuing that conversation, Teresa, and maybe you can pull together a millennial Zoom meeting for Women for Progress Radio, and let's talk about that.
Oh, Lord, you just gave me a task. I'm on it.
Well, I want to go into our next conversation, which we have a survivor of COVID-19.
Wow.
And Miss Bettina is with us, and she has been brave and courageous enough to tune in with us tonight to share her story. I think for many of us, when we think about the virus, our instinct is to go to fear and concern, and but there are many folks that are surviving this virus and are living to tell the story and sharing it with others. And she is with us tonight. So welcome to Women for Progress Radio. Introduce yourself and tell us how this journey has been with you with the COVID-19.
Thank you very much for having me. Again, my name is Bettina Odom. I was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. I am actually a healthcare worker. I am a pharmacist. So for me, the virus has always been real. I have customers that always come in. It was like, I'm like, wear your mask. Are you make sure you cleaning and disinfecting? So I would never thought me being a person with no underlying conditions would have been hit so hard by COVID-19. It first started with my father. My father was having some issues. I was taken to the emergency room back and forth. He actually became unresponsive on April the 8th. And that time I wasn't thinking about anything. I just started CPR. So once I started CPR and the ambulance and stuff got there and took him to the hospital, the doctor came out and told me he had passed and that his lung function didn't look good. And he was like, I think you and your family need to go home and quarantine. Well, that morning I had actually taken my dad to that one-day testing site that was going on in Clinton that day. And he had gotten tested that morning. Well, we found out by that Friday, 2 days later, that he had actually tested positive. So Easter was that Sunday. So with my family, I'm eating, and I started coughing. And it was like not a normal cough. It was just like I was just coughing from my chest. Nothing's there. I had the sore throat. So the same number that I had called for my father to get tested, I called him Monday morning and was like, hey, I'm not running a fever, but I am coughing. And I feel like I'm having a shortness of breath. And the lady was like, oh, okay, well, we'll give you this. Somebody else will contact you before you get tested. So what you do is contact one line, and then somebody else will call you to set up your appointment. So that Monday at 11:30, I went to the fairgrounds to get tested. And the testing, of course, they go up your nose. I don't know if you guys ever been tested before, but they go up your nose with the swab of both nostrils. And my dad graveside service was actually that Wednesday, right before leaving. They called me and told me I had tested positive. My mom, the same night that my dad passed, went into the ER because she was running a fever. And my mom had some underlying medical conditions. The thing with her is she always just had a cough. She never had a fever, never had the chills, just a cough. And they said her lung function was fine, but she did test positive for her to quarantine. And for me, my body just, for days, just ached. I could not get out of bed. That was like I said, my dad died on April 8th. By that Sunday, 4 days later is when I started showing symptoms. By that weekend, after that Wednesday, after Easter, when they told me I was positive, that's when my body I had aches, even to the part where my eyeballs hurt. I just thought that was odd. My joints in my finger and toes hurt. And, when I got that, noticed that I was positive, of course I had to isolate myself from my husband and my kids. That's the hardest part. So I had to lock the doors to my room, strip down everything, washed it. And I just made sure I had plenty of snacks because I really didn't want to eat anything. But I knew I had to eat because I had to put nutrients into my system. I couldn't let this COVID beat me. So I have the notes because I have a journal, I have a book. I told my husband anything ever happened to me, they'll know what I went through on different days.
Now, but you said that you of course isolated yourself, but at that point you had also already been exposed to your husband and your children. Were you advised also to have them tested?
They were not advised to be tested. They just automatically sent a letter from the medical director that my husband had to be quarantined also. So we had to send that letter to his employer to let him know that he has to stay home for 14 days, as well as me. So April the 26th was our last day of being in isolation and on quarantine.
So you were able to manage it during your 14 days by what type of, did you self-medicate? What was it that kept your strength and kept you the virus away, that it didn't get serious enough to take your life?
I stayed on the Tylenol around the clock for the joint aches and for the fever. My mom sent me some tonic water. A friend of hers told her, you got to drink this tonic water. If that's what they believe, I'm going to try it. Because if it helps somebody back in the day, I'm sure it's going to help me now. Mm-hmm. So I drank the tonic water. And my mom was like, ooh, how did it taste? And at that point in time, I had lost my sense of smell and taste.
Wow.
I had the body aches, the loss of sense of smell and taste, and I was like, I couldn't taste anything. But I just kept on eating. And I want to say a lot of stuff that kept me up is like this Zoom FaceTime with family and friends. Mm. Always talking, praying, seeing how you doing. That was that helped me a lot to get through these days. By the 21st of April, which I was getting close towards the end, I thought I was seeing the light. I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Mm. I was in pain. I was nauseated. I felt like I just wasn't gonna make it. Mm. I went to St. Dominic Hospital, went to the ER, and they have the little driver where they can check you in outside. I let them know immediately that, hey, I am COVID-19 positive. And they was like, okay, so they take the special precautions. While I was there, I found out I had pneumonia. Mm. So I had developed the pneumonia from the COVID, and the doctor was up in the air about admitting me or not. And I was like, well, I'm fine with going home, because I have another friend that's a nurse. She was like, make sure you're doing your breathing exercise. Just make sure, even if you just got to stay in your room and blow bubbles, just make sure you breathe. Make sure you're doing it. Because actually, if you take a deep breath, it's like my body didn't want to take that deep breath. It was like, I'm sitting here. I don't want that fresh air. Mm.
So at what point does hospitals decide that they'll take it? I think for many of us, we think, well, if we get the COVID-19 and we start having these complications, we're going to be going to the emergency room. They're going to put us on the ventilators, and then we're going to begin to have care. But sounds like this doctor is saying, well, yes, you got pneumonia, you have all these symptoms, but we're not sure if we're going to take you. So what was the qualification for a patient to be admitted into the hospital?
you had to have severe shortness of breath, or they needed to put you on a ventilator, pretty much.
That seems counterproductive,
Yeah.
and I'm not in the healthcare industry, so I don't know. But it seems kind of counterproductive to wait until a patient is at their last breath to admit them and care for them. Is that standard practice?
It seemed like that is a practice that's been going on with the hospitals. They like, oh, unless you just can't breathe severely, then come back.
Wow.
And I'm just like,
Because I think about those who might have high blood pressure issues, who have other challenges. That's a major concern.
yes.
You know, a
Just
problem.
like I said, my mom has underlying conditions, and she just had a cough. I'm walking around thinking I was healthy and got hit hard, not to the point where I was admitted, because he felt like, oh, we're going to give you these antibiotics, go back to isolation. If it get worse, come back.
Wow. Dr. Teller, you were
Come on.
saying something?
I was just saying one of the big problems too is that there's so many things that are happening with this, and it's as if they find out something new every day. One of the things that one of the ladies said today is that they are only admitting to the hospital about 20% of individuals who are actually positive. So that we've had a lot of individuals who are walking around who are COVID-19 positive, who have not been admitted, who have mild symptoms, and they have just never been counted.
See, that frustrates me to no end, because if you're turning away people until the 9th hour, by the time you're admitting them, the care that you could have provided them to help maintain them, to sustain them, is past that time. And most of these people are dying. So I am looking at the daily projections and numbers of deaths in Mississippi daily. And Black people are the ones who are contracting this disease, this virus, and dying from this virus, not just more in a percentage number, but more holistically, numerically. We are dying more than everyone else, almost everyone else combined. So I'd be interested to know who they're turning away. If they're only admitting 20% of people, who are those 20%? Are they Black people? Are they white? Like, it's frustrating for me to have, like, we have hospitals, you're here to give care, and I'm not in the healthcare industry, so I don't know why they're turning away 80% of these positive cases. But to me, it sounds egregious to send people to get sicker and die.
And I think when we
one
talk...
of the things you might want to look at also is that they're looking at the number of beds they have. And they have counted those beds before they have counted the people.
Wow.
And so undoubtedly what they're looking at is they don't have a cure. They don't have a vaccine. They don't have any medicine that they can give the person. And I am assuming if they feel that person can get through Tylenol or what is it, the other, I forgot the one that I was using, the one that just be called NyQuil or whatever it is that you can take at home and get some kind of relief, then that is well, because they only have a certain number of ventilators.
Yeah.
And so when they admit you, then that's when because if you even have a CPAP machine at home, you can use that CPAP machine. It is not as good as a ventilator, but you have to be intubated if you go into the hospital. You don't have to do that with a CPAP machine at home. So,
well, I think the other concern is that are also some individuals being turned away because they don't have health care. The other piece of it is, even if they send the individual home, many families of color, sometimes I think for many of them, I hate to say this, but they may be in situations that they cannot isolate themselves. If you got a mother that has 3 kids and she's the only source of income and she's providing for her family and she can't get someone to care for her children, that's a situation, and that's real.
Yes,
And we say, well, that's that person's responsibility to make sure that she or he does what she does. Yeah, we can say that it's our individual responsibility, but we have to think about ourselves as a community. That person getting out and getting among us and spreading this, and even with her children, if he or she has been tested positive, and we don't know many days that he or she has been walking around positive, that means that her children now may not have symptoms, but they may be playing with little Johnny down the street or with the neighbor down the street, and now they have carried that virus on to those families. So we as families, I just want to say to us that we must move safely. We must not think about just ourselves. We must think about all of those around us, whether we are blood relatives or we're neighbors or co-workers or etc. And then the other concern is, and I have not read much about this, is how effective do we have a database where every person that's being tested positive, is this a database that's been updated? And if it's available for those of us who want to check those individuals' names off.
That seems like that might be a violation.
We in a crisis time, and if you got COVID-19, we need to know it. I need to know if my administrative clerk receptionist who's coming in every day. I don't want to know any of your personal information, but I need to check that
list. They
list.
are trying to do, and one of the things we hear them talking about day by day is the fact that there needs to be testing, and then there needs to be the follow-through with those who, the connection, and I forgot what they call it, where you have the testing, and then you look at the individuals of that person who has been with, and what happened with them. What they call it, Bettina, they call it something anyway. Is the person who has it is tested. Once they test positive, then they go back and they test everyone that you have been in contact with. The only city, well, they have two cities who are doing that in the state of New York. They are hiring hundreds of thousands of workers to follow through on that kind of program. And in Boston, they are doing that. And what they have decided is the only way they're going to be able to even control the virus is that they not only test the person who is positive, but then they have a way of testing those individuals that the person has been with also. They have never talked about that down here in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think we do have to do a better job tracking who hasn't and who all have they been in contact with, because, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but you started to develop symptoms a few days after you came into contact with your father. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. I'm so sorry for your loss. And to get things like this right after, I can't imagine what you and your family were going through. So we appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing your story so all people can hear that this is a real thing. This is impacting real lives. I went to see my mother over Mother's Day, and as I passed through some communities, there were people just kind of congregating everywhere. And it sent a message to me that folks are not, our people, African American people, are not taking this seriously, even though we're the ones dying from this in large disproportionate rates. So thank you for being here. Secondly, I think we need to do a better job, like you said, of tracking who have you been in contact in those 3 days before you developed that very first symptom. Because you could have went to a gas station, could have went to a hair salon. By the time it was closed, but could have went to work. And we are constantly in contact with each other without even realizing. The person you pass in the aisle in the store, or people who are constantly just kind of around us. And I think you're right. Mississippi has got to create some method in place to keep these numbers down so that we keep people informed about, where this virus is kind of at and who has it. Well, not the person who has it, but where has it been centralized in the state?
And I'm hearing from rural communities that people are aware that there are people who have tested positive for COVID-19, and they're seeing those people in their supermarkets. They're seeing them walking around their communities, and that is in large numbers. So that it's definitely and you, Bettina, you said you were a pharmacist tech. Is that right?
A pharmacist, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so when you were tested positive, did you reach out to your coworkers? How did that work? And tell us about that process.
I first reached out to my district manager and to my coworkers because they was all concerned about me with my dad anyway. Mm-hmm. And I let them know that, hey, I tested positive. So if you guys, you have a like cough or fever or anything, don't mistake it for an allergy, because it was allergy season. Go to the doctor, get tested, find out if you're okay. My company actually brought in a team to do a cleaning in the store where I work.
Okay. And did your coworkers all get tested?
They did not. I had two that previously was sick the week before my dad passed, and one had gotten tested and she was in it clear. The other one, the doctor just said it was allergy related. But I do know that the one that did go to the doctor that got tested was Caucasian. The one it was the one that said, hey, well, my doctor said it's allergies. And she is African American. Wow.
And it's all about perspective. And I'm wondering about the leadership of that particular. I'm assuming it was one of the pharmacies that you were working for or working with. I would think that from a management standpoint, that would have been everybody needs to be tested. Everybody in here needs to be tested. Not only for you all as employees, but for us that was coming in as customers being serviced. Everybody. Cleaning is not going to do any good if somebody else is still walking around positive and we're not aware of it. So these types of conversations, Bettina, we're so glad you joining us and sharing your story, because I think for us as a community, we need to understand that there's still gaps in this thing. And now that we're coming back live again, restaurants are opening, malls are opening. When I heard the mall that was opening, I said, oh my goodness, malls that are opening. And we know when we bring kids into the mall, they're just touching anything everywhere. And everybody's just running around touching everything. And so I'm so glad you're sharing this story with us today, because you're opening our eyes to a whole different perspective about this virus thing, and that we still must remain vigilant and keep our eyes open and continue to share with each other and hear our stories. I want to shift now our conversation, Dr. Talley. I'm so good.
Let me just add this one last caveat.
Okay.
Even in the White House, when the young lady tested one day, she was negative. The next day, she was positive. And so, I would caution your coworkers and anyone else. Don't just take the word that you're negative today. If you're feeling it later, it may show up later. And because the problem is, we do not know enough about this virus to negate any of those things that our common sense is telling us about it. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to move to, Bettina, she had a loss, of course, in her family, and then she had her own challenges with herself and her mom. A lot of stress goes behind these things, and many of us, even just the idea and thought that we're going to be, I think somebody's chiming in, wants to get in our conversation here. Hold on one moment. Dr. Talley, while we're letting this individual, he evidently. No, I see Marcus. Actually, he's the one I'm having a Zoom meeting with, so I'm familiar with him. So that's the reason I'm going to let him in. So it's not just anybody I'm letting in. But,
I've been on a Zoom call where we were hacked by someone who joined in and did all kinds of crazy things. So now I'm just like, don't let anyone in if we don't know.
Right. Is this Marcus Williams in with us? Marcus? Marcus, are you with us? Marcus? Okay, maybe he'll get tuned in. I'm going to actually get him out.
I do want to say something right quick. I did get a text message every day from the state of Mississippi to let me know, hey, you are on our orders to be isolated.
Oh, wow.
Every day.
Mm.
And a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to take forever to get your test back. I got tested. It took 2 days. My dad, 2 days. Both my brothers got tested. It only took 2 days.
Mm.
So I can't say it wasn't like a quick turnaround. But people saying, oh, it's going to take a whole week or so. I didn't experience that.
Did anyone else in your family test positive for COVID other than you and your father?
Just my mother.
Okay. How is she doing?
She's doing well. She's taking it day by day. Even when my 3-year-old ran a temperature at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had my husband take me straight to UMC. They tested him. He was negative.
Okay. Well, that's good news. And Dr. Townley, who is associate pastor of Fair Street Baptist Church and a long time member of Women for Progress and part of its major leadership. Dr. Townley, I want to talk about the spiritual side of this because we know during these times, and really even whether the times are good or bad, or we're at the mountaintop or down in the valley, that we lean on our faith in these times. And there's good news through all of this stuff too. That's what I want to say to people. I get excited about it because I think when we get on the other side of this thing, it's gonna be some exciting things come out of this. So will you speak to us? I know you've been talking and counseling with individuals and evaluating this on yourselves. So speak to us today regarding that.
All right, then one of the things, as I was listening, I was really heartened by what Bettina said in terms of what kept her going. She talked about getting and talking with individuals and praying with individuals through Zoom. Mm. I would caution anyone, especially those of us who have got a few years on us, you need to learn to use all of the FaceTime and the Zoom and the Skype and Facebook and Twitter. You need to come up and say you'll do that because as we are sheltering in place, you need to be able to talk with someone else so that you know you're not in this alone. And that's one of the things that will keep you going. But of all the things that you do, we know that prayer always works. And when you're praying, there are a couple of scriptures you might want to write down that you want to read. One is Philippians 4:4-8. And it says that the Lord is near, and be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to them, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your mind, your hearts and mind in Christ Jesus. And then watch what it is that you have on your mind. It talks about whatever is true and whatever is honorable, that you should think on these things. While you are there alone, it is very easy to let your mind wander and to fear, can this virus come through my walls and so forth? Or if I go out and I get the mail, will it be on the mail and all this kind? You can let your mind, you can go into all kinds of things in terms of worry. But it says that don't worry about anything but prayer. And then it says in Matthew 6:25-33 that we should not be anxious for anything in life. It's therefore be not anxious what we shall eat, what you should drink, what you should wear. He says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, which is simply saying that in all of this, although we talk about this pandemic as something we have never seen before, we may have never seen it before, but God knows. You have to remember that he even caused some. Think about what happened and what he did when the children of Israel were in Egypt. He caused some pandemics right then and there. He knows. He is able. When Jesus was in the hollow of that ship and the waves were rolling and so forth, and everybody was wondering, Lord, are you going to just let us perish? All he had to do was come out and say, peace, be still, and even the winds and the waves obey him. Those of us who are called by his name have someone who we can always call on, who knows what we are going through, who can always give us the peace. We have to understand that our peace is in our faith and us understanding who God is and what he is in our life. And then you need to embrace your fear, because it is going to come, and they come in bundles and so forth. And you need to understand that you serve a God who is greater than all. One of the things that I tell people to do when if you're a worry wart, is called worry swapping. Get you a jar, and then make you some cardboard wings or paper wings and stick them on that jar. So that's your worry angel. Every time you find yourself worrying more than 1 minute, you got some paper pieces by it. Put up one of those paper pieces in that jar. When this is all over, give each one of those paper pieces in that jar a value. You can count them. They can be worth 5 cents or 20 cents or $1, whatever it is. Count them up, and then you're going to donate that money to one of the charities that you know, because when you come out of this, you're going to bless somebody, because God was able to help you through all of the worry that you had, and you're going to put it in that jar. And that's just one of the techniques that you can use. You also want to then, as you're praying, don't always pray alone. If you don't have Zoom, you got a cell phone, you can pray with another person. If you don't do that, you can text, you can go on we call it a Walton line in my family, where all of us have gone into we're in one thing, and in our messengers, our messages, not messenger, but in our messages, we're in one thread, and I might pray for somebody, then the others may chime in on that. Also, we have Bible study on Zoom. Every Wednesday, we have a Bible study for about an hour and a half on Zoom for my church. For my church, we also have once a week. On Sunday morning, we have a Bible study. In the afternoon, we have what we call dinner with the pastor, which is an after-dinner talk. So at about 2 o'clock, all of the members get on Zoom, and we talk and we share. We don't have just a set agenda. We talk about what is happening. Twice a month. We also have, in my family, we have a Zoom family conference, so that we can come together, and we, for that, whatever that day is, we come on the line, we wish whoever's birthday it was, and we tell stories about what happened and what mama did or what so-and-so did and so forth, so that we keep ourselves together. Keep your mind then stayed on something that's about. Don't sit there worrying. Stay active in the community. Those of you, many of you who are listening here are very active, so you wonder, how can you do that? You've got many organizations who need you to do telephone calling and to work with others, to volunteer doing things. You can be making things and so forth for others as you're sitting there. Then go on a news diet. Believe you me, if you listen to something in the morning, listen to something at night, in between, because if you continue to listen to the news all day long, your mind and everything that you do will be consumed by all of the things that are happening. And I can promise you, they are learning something new every day. And then I think finally, as we talked about reaching out to family and friends, and understanding that God is able. God is still the God that you talked about. The God that you know about is still there. And then the last thing you're going to do is when you're praying, not only for yourself and others, you're going to bless the bed. You're going to take this time that we're together, and you're going to act as if we are Jewish and we're working. This is a Sabbath. And you know what they do on the Sabbath? They don't do any work. They don't do any trap. They don't sell, buy, sell, and so forth like we used to do about 50 years ago when we thought you couldn't work and do things on Sunday. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to give yourself this time to actually work and to focus in on God. Because I can tell you, listening to the music, going to YouTube and just putting that on and going to some of those mixes, you can come, and the high that you get, you can go about your work then. You say, oh, all right, Lord, it's all right today. Now, I know you're here, and I know you got it in charge, because I can promise you one thing. While we think it's new, God has everything under control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. That's a powerful message, Dr. Telly. You always bring it, and you gave us a different perspective. And I tell you, I'm going to share all of these with my friends and family. And this is really, really good news we can use. And you told us exactly what we need to do. This is true empowerment. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I want to remind our audience some of these activities at Ferris Street that you mentioned on Wednesday night Bible study. What time does that start on your Facebook page, Dr. Talley?
Our Bible study on Wednesday is at 12 o'clock noon.
Oh, 12 noon, okay.
I will send you, I'll email you the link.
Okay.
And anybody can come on at 12 noon. And if you want to come on, and if you want to get the information beforehand, if you'll send me your email, then because I send out the Bible study lesson every day before the Wednesday Bible study.
Okay.
The Bible study on Sunday morning, you go to Ferris Street Baptist Church on Facebook or Zoom, and you can join in the morning. And I'll also send you the link, those who are meeting with the pastor. We have that also. And then, may I just say one more thing? Mm-hmm. If there is anyone who has lost their job and they need health insurance, we still, our ACA office is still working. We can do that online. We can also work with mothers who need Medicaid, or children who need CHIP. We can still do all of that right now online. All you have to do is just give us a call. And maybe I can give you that number. Give us that number. It's 601-990-6896. And for many of us who now have lost our jobs, you definitely need to reach out regarding the getting health care insurance, not only for yourself, but for your children. If you need to get Medicaid, if your children do not have Medicaid right now or health insurance right now, you need to reach out to Dr. Talley at 601-990-6896 and let her walk you through the step-by-step process to get everything done, to answer all your questions. At this particular time, we're in a situation where we can't have access to our clinics and our doctors and our hospitals when we need to. You need to have health insurance. And I'm going to say it. When you show up if you don't have a regular primary doctor and you show up at the emergency room at the hospitals, the first thing that they look at before they start treating you, do you have health care insurance? And I don't care what they say, what the rules or regulations for hospitals are. The quality of care that you get in that moment, in that next hour, is based on, number one question, do you have health insurance? And this is real. And we can say, well, the hospital's supposed to treat everybody equally. Well, we live in America. And we know that that's not the case, because I've had stories of I'm blessed to have great insurance because my husband's retired, and so we are grateful for that opportunity.
But for many, they do not have coverage, and I have just heard some horror stories when they show up at emergency rooms. And you need to have health insurance and you need to get a primary care physician so that you are seeing one individual that is aware of your situation, your healthcare needs. Because when you're going from emergency room to emergency room, or you're going from clinic to clinic, your medical records don't always follow you. And so it's so important. So reach out to Dr. Talley at 601-990-6896, 601-990-6896 at Ferris Street Baptist Church. And Dr. Talley, what are the hours that folks can call you?
Well, that number they can call me on it. Just I don't like to get up before. Don't call me before 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I did get a call. I want you to know at 4:30 this morning.
Okay.
Let me sleep until at least 9 o'clock. I'd appreciate it.
And as somebody who texts all time of the night, I'm not even going to say anything about that. Right, Teresa?
Yes.
So that number again is 601-990-6896. Get help in insuring yourself and your children and your family, either through Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act. And Dr. Talley is amazing. She would definitely help you. And we will share, Dr. Talley would send us the other links and information where we can connect to these other great activities at Ferris Street Baptist Church, who has been around serving the Jackson community for how long now, Dr. Talley?
Oh, about 30 years.
Right. It's a historic institution on Ferris Street.
That's me now. Ferris Street has been there for
For how long now, Dr. Talley?
Ferris Street has been there for more than 130 or 40 years. I should have known that because we had an anniversary. But it's been over 140 years, though.
Well, thank you. Teresa, thank you, of course, for co-hosting tonight. And thank you, Miss Patina Odom, for sharing your story and inspiring us tonight, and also calling us to action to make sure that we are safe, that we take this virus very, very serious, and we're making sure that we're keeping ourselves, our families, and our community safe. Thank you, Dr. Talley, for joining us. And look, I'm going to put you on our Zoom list, so I'm going to be calling. You're going to have to add a few more meetings to your list.
No, I do want to address some of our viewers. Contact tracing is practiced in other states.
That's what it is.
It's not here in Mississippi yet. And that potentially could be due to the fact that there was this battle over the $1.25 billion that was given to the state. So maybe, they just didn't have the resources to allocate to our health department.
That contact tracing, that's not why they're not doing it.
I'm trying to give them some grace, y'all.
Bless your heart, then.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up, but I just want to say this. The Mississippi legislature has passed a $300 million stimulus bill directed at Mississippi small businesses on Wednesday night, putting a declarative end to the debate over who would appropriate the $1.25 billion in the CARES Act fund. That Senate bill number, and right now it's available Jackson Free Press. You can go to the state website and just Google this bill, and I'm sure it'll come up. And we're going to be posting it on our site and in our Facebook page too. We may have it up there already, but it's Senate Bill 2772. Senate Bill 2772. For businesses, if you didn't get funded in the payroll protection plan, even if you did get funded, small businesses, beauty salons, all of those independent businesses, you need to read this bill. Read this bill. All small businesses right now, this is another opportunity for you to empower yourself and your businesses. And don't wait. This happened Wednesday night. We know that these things there's a huge need in the state of Mississippi, and so you need to make sure you print that bill out. Matter of fact, I think when I printed it, it was 3 or 4 pages, so not very heavy. So please make sure that you read through it. I'm sure as we go through the next couple of days, you'll find out how to connect. My understanding is going to be administered through the Mississippi Development Authority. And so I don't know what the entity is yet, or email address, or who we need to start. hopefully there's going to be a link on the website that we'll be able to connect with, and we'll continue to share that with you also. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight, being part of the Women for Progress radio show. We have all of the links now on our website, radio website, womenforprogressradio.com, womenforprogressradio.com, a link to this live broadcast and to all of our radio networks is all on that page on how to connect with us, and also overview on all of our programming through the Women for Progress radio network. So we're here every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. We're early tonight, and on Wednesdays from 12 to 1 at noon. So thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and stay safe out there. Thank you much.
Thank you.